some funny moments in it. I have a cousin that I adore who lives in Lubbock. He called me last year and he said, well, Rebecca, there's a new antique shop in town. And the name of the business is Dead People Stuff. And I thought, gee, but when you really think about it, that's what that stuff usually is. I mean, you have to laugh about it. You just have to. I thought, Dead People Stuff? When am I going to go there? But I started researching. And all my research took me back to the year 1900. This is small, I realize, but I will read it to you. From the year 1900 to 1927, generations have been named. From 1900 to 1927 is the greatest generation. And we all know that, right? Tom Brokaw wrote a book. That was my parents' generation. They were stalwart Americans. And indeed, nobody thinks that that's not true. 1928 to 1945 is called the silent generation. People came back from World War I. They went back to their little towns. There were tiny towns all over America. There was no interstate. These little towns were vibrant. I would spend the summer with my grandmother. She lived in the country in Arkansas. Well, we'd get dressed up on Saturday and go to town.
Yes, I did that.
You remember that?
Yes.
You know, we'd get cleaned up and we'd go to town. Oh, I could not wait. I could not wait. There were only 4 buildings there. Tiny, you know, there was a hardware store, a little market, you know. All I was interested in was penny candy. That's all I cared about. But I ran around, I had fun. I went back about 30 years ago, and there's nothing there anymore. All those buildings are gone. Interstates bypassed all these tiny little towns. But during the silent generation, they were vibrant, absolutely vibrant. Then you came to us, 1946 to 1964. We're the baby boomers. We are the children of penny candy. We are the children of one bicycle. Well, I don't know, I'm from Arkansas. Y'all look wealthy, so you probably have more than one bicycle. But my husband and I, we talk about it. We said, how in the world did we get by with one bicycle? Our grandchildren, they start with a tiny little thing that's this big. And they scoot, and then they get a bigger scoot, and then they get this one, and then they get this one, and then they get this one. I mean, I said, how in the world did we manage to kick our leg over that? And our bicycle was just our greatest, oh my gosh, that was the greatest thing we had. We behaved in school. Anybody's mom in my town could discipline anybody else's kids. And nobody thought one thing about it. And then I'd get in bigger trouble when I got home. Now I'm from Arkansas. We had a party line when I was little. We had a party line. And I was in seniors one day. I still substitute at my high school. Honey. Lord have, in Fort Worth, yes, large public high school. They call and beg. Oh, it's a sickness. But I go because I love the kids. I even love the riffraff. But I was talking to him one day and I said, do you have any idea what a party line is? I shouldn't have asked that. You cannot imagine. I said, stop. No. And then when I told them, they were just clouded over. What? I said, well, if you were real careful. I said, go home and ask your great-grandmother. She'll know. Most of my clothes were homemade. My grandmother made most of my clothes. My little clothes, that I was little, I loved rick-rack. And oh my gosh, I loved the rick-rack. I had to wear that rick-rack until finally my mother said, Rebecca, no more rick-rack. You are too old to have rick-rack. But I just loved it. But we did. We had homemade clothes, but here again, only the wealthy, when I was little, could, go to the department store and buy all their clothes. Because most of the people we knew sewed. My aunt sewed, my grandmother sewed, my mother sewed. I grew up going to fabric stores. feeling of that fabric. It's a wonderful memory that I still have. If you wanted to do research, when I got in junior high and high school, we didn't have encyclopedias. No, my husband did. He was spoiled. But my mother would take me to the library. And I love the library. I even love the library today. I love it. And I would go and do research for projects. So we were cleaning out my mother-in-law's home in Arkansas, a little tiny town of 400. She was the postmistress of the little town. Oh my goodness, everybody knew Miss Martha. Oh yes. So we were cleaning out her house, and my husband had gone back to work, and we'd had the estate sale, and the encyclopedias were still there. I'm going to digress just 1 minute. The encyclopedias were still there. And I thought, gosh, I've got to get these out, because her little home had sold, and it was August, and it was 103 degrees outside. But I thought, well, I got to get up there on that ladder and get these things down, and what am I going to do with them? And I thought, I'll call the libraries. That's what I'll do. I thought maybe in Arkansas they'd take them. Oh no, we don't take encyclopedias. No, we don't. And then I called the library at Hope, Arkansas, and she said, yes, we take encyclopedias. I went, wonderful. So I dragged that ladder in there. Those books had been on that shelf for so long. They're sticky and heavy. And there I was, up and down, schlepping those things out to the back of my car. Well, drove up to Hope, Arkansas, went around the back of the library, and I got out and I said, I'm just thrilled to death that y'all are going to take these encyclopedias. And she said, well, they're really not for us. They're for the Girl Scouts. And I thought, oh, even better. I could see the little Girl Scouts. Teddy Roosevelt. I could just see them, using my husband's little encyclopedias. She said, yes, they tear the pages out and then they bundle it and sell it to Warehouse. And I thought, isn't that a sin? Oh my gosh, because we revered encyclopedias, right? I just went, for a split second I thought, oh no. And then I went, wonderful. I couldn't wait to get back to my car and call my husband. Guess where your encyclopedias are. It was a momentous day, believe me. Then we have Generation X, and that's my children. That was 1965 to 1980. My children were born at the very end of Generation X. My children consider themselves millennials, and probably a lot of your children do too. Millennials were 81 to 96. Then you have 97 to 2010 is Generation Z. And Generation Z, that's when a cell phone was a must-have. We had cell phones prior to that. Remember the flip phones, and then you had to go R, I'll never forget when my husband brought home a Blackberry. Oh man, it's this little device about as big as this that I have in my pocket. Why, you could run a hospital from that thing. We thought, ooh, what will they think of next? Well, we all know what they thought of next. But no, cell phones by 1994 were a must-have. And even now, my students will tell me, Miss Blackwood, you only know how to use 5% of your phone. I said, that is the 5% I need. I don't know, I don't care about whatever that stuff is. But yes, even now, if I forget my cell phone, even though I only know how to use 5%, and if I'm not too far away from home, I'll go back and get it. Yep. And you probably do the same thing. I can remember when I could remember 30 phone numbers. Now I barely know mine and my daughter's. It's quite amazing. Children today, from 2011 to 2026, they are named Generation Alpha. But from 1900 on, I can remember my mother and daddy, my grandparents saying, oh my gosh, things have changed so much since I was a kid. And I'm thinking the same thing. Things have changed so much since I was a kid. Beginning, like I said, in 1900, generations have been named. And right now, Generation Z and this young generation, marketers are targeting these people all the time.